Hello, everyone. My name is Veronica, and I'm a member of the Orfeo Music Festival team administering today's webinar. I am pleased to welcome you all to the first session, to this session in the new Orfeo Music Festival Spring 2022 webinar series devoted to classical music performance. I believe we have a full and exciting program planned for today. I would now like to introduce Larissa Jackson, longtime music director of the Orfeo Music Festival, who has led the planning and development of the festival as well as our webinar program today. Larissa will manage our program today and will be available to answer any questions during and after this webinar. Larissa?
Hi, everyone. Hello and welcome. I would like to welcome you all to today's webinar, which promises to be exceptional. But first, let me say a few words about the festival. Orfeo Music Festival is an international classic music event widely known for its artistic excellence. The festival takes place in Europe each summer. And from its founding in 2003, the festival's mission is to celebrate and promote artistic excellence with classical music performances of the highest standard and to offer superior education to the new generation of musicians with the world-class artists, to nurture creativity and to build lasting human and artistic bonds.
Great, and I would just like to encourage you all to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we will be posting the webinar series. And of course, we welcome you to share this with anyone who might be interested.
We are opening a new webinar series, Music is Our World, which is a 3-year initiative by the Orfeo Music Festival, exploring the role of music in our lives in a variety of ways, but concentrating on the art of musical performance, which lays at the corner of musical experience. And now I would like to take a few minutes to introduce you to today's distinguished faculty artist, Mina Perry. Mina Hirobe Perry performed in recitals as soloist, chamber musician in Germany, Belgium, Italy, Austria, Ireland, and many other countries, including North America and the East. She enjoys concertizing, 2 piano, 4-hand repertoire. She earned her bachelor and master degrees with honor at the Musashino Academy Musica in Tokyo, where she studied with Professor Tetsushige Mariyama and Professor Konstantin Ganev, who was the assistant professor of the eminent pedagogy Heinrich Neuhaus at Moscow Conservatory. Ms. Perry's priority is to enable her students to discover their unique style in music making. In 2013, Ms. Perry founded the Southern California Music Institute. And in summer, Ms. Perry enjoys performing and teaching at summer festivals worldwide, such as Summer Music on the Shannon in Ireland, Académie Internationale de Courchevel in France, and many others. Ms. Perry, welcome. Over to you, please.
Thank you so much for having me today. And nice to meet you, everybody. It is my privilege to be one of the speakers of the Orfeo Music Festival webinar series. Please feel free to ask me any questions if anything is not clear to you, or if you have any questions, you can stop anytime. I will try to initiate some break in between talk, but you can totally stop me anytime. So my name is Mina Perry again, and the title of my lecture today is Mozart on Piano, Slur, Staccato, and everything in between. I will talk about musical expressions using the beautiful music of Mozart. But the main point I wish to emphasize is to tell you how important it is to think about sound and how forgotten it often is to think about sound quality when you practice. The process of learning music, such as reading scores correctly, having knowledge of music theory, and technical skills, of course, but those exist only for the purpose of making your music more meaningful and beautiful when appropriate. However, in the many hours of everyday practicing, students start focusing on only a small part of this whole process. Music is an auditory art, and all we do must be for the sound we create. So Mozart on the piano. Playing Mozart on the piano is not an easy task. Maybe there are no other composers who suffer such an extent of misconceptions. Over the years of teaching, I became convinced that Mozart is probably the most overlooked and misunderstood composer of piano music. With minimum number of notes, he reached up to the highest form of art. The beauty in his music is simply unsurpassed. He created a vast number of compositions outside of piano music. There's simply too much to fit in one lecture. So I will focus on the articulations today, as I titled, Slur, Staccato, and everything in between, and maybe and beyond. Using some examples of his piano music and his other compositions, I will discuss the rich expressions he wrote in his piano music that often get very strangely neglected, and how we can transfer from bold and boring scores to complex and profoundly expressive art. Piano has strings. It's funny, even I have to explain, but this is a forgotten fact often, even for the pianists. First of all, I want to touch a little bit of the function of the piano as an instrument. Confused by the visual image of the piano, the sound does not occur when the finger touches the surface of the keyboard, because keyboard sings. The actual moment of the sound production is when hammer contacts the strings. When does the hammer contact the strings? That is when your finger arrives at the bottom of the key. Then sound is finally created by hammer contacting the strings in an upward motion. So this is like a teeter-totter. This is a keyboard. You press down the keyboard, reach to the bottom, and this swings the hammer. Hammer is even not attached to the other end. Swings. There's a hammer with the separate function, and swings hammer up, and the strings here. And this hammer struck the strings and lets the strings vibrate, and that's how sound occurs. It's the first time the sound occurs. So this is really, the surface of the key is nothing to do with the sound production, actually. So I would like to share a picture of that function of the piano. Just a part of it. Let me share screen. So this, there you go. So this is the inside of the keyboard, even like a really very little part of the piano. So like you see the teeter-totter part, this is a fulcrum here, where you see 52. No, sorry, 53. And this right end is a keyboard. And the depth is not so much, but it's a quite a distance actually. Then you press it down and reach the bottom. Then first this the other end of the teeter-totter, 37, 38. Lift. The hammer is a 6, number 6. So this kind of like you know, touches softly, and then this swings up the hammer. So, and this number 1 is the strings. So that is a mechanism of the instrument. Okay, did everybody get it? Okay, I will turn it off. So now you see.
Mina.
Yes.
If I may, try speaking a little bit closer to computer because your sound might be a little bit too low, and that's why your screen is not at the center, which it should be when you speak.
Oh, no, actually my microphone is the separate microphone. Am I too soft?
No, it's the issue of the screen. When you speak, you should be in the center screen, and you're not. And
I'm not.
one reason could be the microphone.
Am I center now?
See, when I turn off my microphone, when I mute, your screen should come up. So start talking just to check.
Oh, you mean that Zoom? I think it's your setting though. You can make me as a, you can pin me as a main screen. Let me see. I don't think I can, I have that control.
Maybe if you speak louder, anybody has ideas? I don't know. This never happened before. Usually the speaker appears in a large frame.
You know, Larissa, can you go to, you know, right upper corner? Says, I think it's a view. And you can set as a speaker.
That's what I have.
You have speaker.
Yes.
Yeah.
What about
So
everybody else?
what's happening is that, oh, now it's working. Now it's working. Now you're going in the center, so it should be fine.
Oh, somebody suggested something in the chat. If you click on Mina's screen, you should be able to select pin. Can you do that? Is Larissa? You're the host, right? Oh, it's like a, okay, let's see. Any change? Good. Larissa, are you happy with this now?
No, you're still in a small window and you should be in essential when you speak. Try, I don't know, try to speak louder or put the microphone next to you.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Oh, I hear you well, but the screen, your screen is still small.
So you click on my picture and then you see pin. You can click on pin.
We're good.
Okay, so okay, I continue. So you must orient of your timing at the arrival at the bottom of the key. If you think the arrival at the surface of the key is a timing of sound production, you will always play unrhythmically. The depth of the key is usually a little more than 3/8 of an inch. So it's not much, but it's a lot for a finger to travel when you're aiming a very precise timing, meaning good rhythms. So the important thing here, though, is to remember that motion of the finger does not create a sound. I will talk about this later, and I can emphasize enough about that. But the sound occurs first when the key reaches the bottom of the key with the stroke. So lifting finger does not create any sound, but it gives a certain effect to the sound. Is everything clear with you? Is there any questions? Please feel free anytime. You can just jump in, interrupt me, that's fine. Okay, so the hammer must strike the strings efficiently in order to create a good sound. And it varies by the register of the piano, but there are 3 strings for 1 note. So they all should vibrate. In order to create a good sound, that the hammer must strike the strings a certain way. If you do not do it efficiently, meaning if you don't let the hammer contact the strings in a good way, the strings would not vibrate enough to create a complete sound with even clear pitch. Furthermore, there is a soundboard which is called as a soul of piano that determines the sound of piano, the character of the piano. Piano is like a human being. Every piano has different character even from the same manufacturer. It's just as it is, like us. So, but what determines the character is a soundboard. The sound we hear would not even exist without the soundboard. Now you can see how complex it is to create a good sound on a piano. It's not automatic thing. We don't need to tune before we play. I mean, I wish I could, but we're very, in a way, very ignorant about our own instruments. We can't tune a piano every time we play. So anybody can play the piano, even cat. If they walk on a keyboard, there would be a sound. But producing good sound, we really have to know how to make the instruments think for us. So touching the surface of the key is really, really only the beginning of this whole process of sound production. So I titled Slur, Staccato, and Everything in Between. I will start talking about staccato first. Staccato, in case you're not familiar with that term, it's a little dot or the wedge-shaped sign above the note, which makes the note shorter than its actual value. Many students have almost like a chemical reaction when they see the dot above the note. They go, ooh, it has to be very short. And usually they go in the air, and then I don't want to use this term hit for playing piano, but literally hit the key because it's staccato, but it's not staccato. Knowing the function of the piano as an instrument, now you know how inefficient it is to hit the key from the above and don't give a time for strings to vibrate. So the staccato by Oxford Music Dictionary, the definition of staccato is written so: detached method of playing a note shown by a dot over the note so that it is shortened and thus detached from its successor by being held for less than its full value. That's the staccato. So it's nothing that you have to touch the key as if it's really hard to touch. It's just shorter than its full value of the note. So slur. Slur is the bow that is written above multiple number of the notes, which requires to play with legato. Legato, smooth, without interruption, seamless. So now it comes to a question. How can we make legato on the keyboard? You press down the key, then hammer contacts the strings. That is one-time motion. We're not using the bow, like the string instrument, or the breath for woodwind, any brass, or singing, to sustain the sound. Once the strings are struck, it is done. There's nothing we can do to sustain the sound. But that is not entirely true. Now I'm referring again to the soundboard. It is an entire piano size of a thin wood. It varies the depth from register to register, place to place, but usually about 3/8 of an inch again. So it's very thin piece of wood. The soundboard serves amplify the sustaining in sound you get. So the vibrating strings is not the end of the making sound with piano. Strings are resting on a bridge attached to the soundboard. So the vibration influences the soundboard to vibrate and then create the sound that we hear in our ear. So you can imagine, I use the word vibrates many times, but you can imagine how to vibrate things. Like playing glockenspiel, I don't know if you play that in a school, or a bell, or toasting a glass even. If you want to get the good sound, you automatically started using the arm, free arm. By the way, it's actually exactly same as playing sports, like golf, like tennis, baseball. If you want to hit the ball as far as you want, or as far as possible, you've got to use your arm and body freely, or the throwing the ball that pitcher does in a baseball. You cannot use muscular force. That would not help. And sound is exactly the same as hitting the ball as far as possible. The sound travels as far as possible is considered a good sound, by the way. So it's the very same thing. So your arms should be free and use almost like a whip motion. Just really exactly like, you can imagine how you play the tennis. I don't, but try to hit the ball as fast as possible, or the way you want, and you don't go like that. So if you use a muscular force, it will never let the object vibrate in the same way. So I would like to demonstrate a little at the piano, the things I was talking about, and variety of sound you can make. Can you hear me okay now? Still okay? Okay. So Mozart wrote so many compositions, aka art, and all of them are just great, fantastic, superb. So if I pick a piece, that are all the examples that I'm talking about today, but I'll try to show a few examples so you can enjoy its music also. So I'm going to start with the slow movement of Piano Sonata D major 575. So you start with a single tone melody, very simple. Go like this. Etc. So this it's a one bow, one slur. Maybe you might notice that I intentionally loosen up my arm to play legato like that. So as I was talking, to make object vibrates, it has to be very loose. And left hand, this is no slur, it's just a support of the sound. But I slightly play differently with right hand and left hand. I'm sure it's hard to hear through microphone, but I do my best. So the legato sound, that's with the slur. So I have to read this. So Oxford Dictionary again says, definition of legato: bound together, performance of music so that there's no perceptible pause between notes. That is, in a smooth manner, the opposite of staccato. I think it's interesting. The opposite of staccato, indicated by slur or curved line. On string instruments, legato passages are played with one stroke of a bow. In vocal music, the legato passage is sung in one breath. Legato touch in pianoforte. Playing requires holding down one key until the finger is on another. So this is a trick. If you just hold this finger to the next note, it's not legato enough, it's not beautiful. I'm holding the finger, I'm even overlapping a little, but it's not legato. You've got to really relax your arm and wrist and imagine to vibrate, to let the string vibrate and soundboard vibrate by this whip-like motion. And it's legato first for me. This sound is legato. Now you have, for the legato, the definition for me is a complete lack of attack. You have a given space and time, and the notes are played without attack. So there is no gap or a bump, and the sound is seamless. So that's a legato sound to me. And there are helpful techniques to help the legato, but I want to emphasize this wording of holding the note to the another really is not enough to make a beautiful legato. So if I play this, for instance, even with the pedal, the way I used, it's very different. I hope it sounds different to you too through microphone. But I hear this kind of sound so too often that people think, especially the young people, oh, there's a bow, so I just have to connect the notes. Or that there's a, okay, here, this is a staccato, this left hand. And I was saying earlier, the chemical reaction, oh, it's a staccato, I have to be fat, I have to be short. And I'm not exaggerating, I hear this very often. It's just so unmatching to everything what's going on musically. But just because there's a dot, people think, oh God, it has to be very short. So, and there's many, many examples. For instance, this. And a fast passage, 30-second notes, but it's all slurred. So it's very, even though you have to move on to another notes quite quickly, you still have to have the sound that there's no attack. So, and then goes, sorry. Staccato, but repeated note. Actually, it's a repeated chord. You have to get out of the key in order to make another tap in short amount of time. But that then comes again the depth of the key. You don't have to get out of the key completely in order to make repeated note. Getting out of the key. I never get out the key. But if you don't experiment this with your instrument, this is another example that I hear so often. It's so unmusical. I hope you hear that, that difference. But it's just automatic, okay? I have to repeat, so I have to get out the key. This is very happening often, the repeated key, repeated note and a keyboard. No other musicians would play like that if they have repeated note. The Mozart G minor Symphony Number 40. You have to repeat this on the strings when the accompanying goes. I'm sure pianists would play like that because they think they have to repeat the key. Hit again, so I have to get out the key. But this is so durable. And there's no written crescendo there, but unspoken truth that if you repeat same passages many times, you want to make crescendo. So another subject that's slur on two notes, that's also very common musical expressions of pianists do. Two notes. So two notes slur. We learn at age 5 or 6 that first note has to be louder and second note has to be softer. It's like a format. So they see the two notes slur, they go, they cannot get out of that. But as you see the symphony, how the strings would do this, if you go let's see, they make a crescendo, definitely. Besides the big crescendo that you hear throughout the theme, but the pianist somehow this notation is all what they have to follow, and then all of a sudden they forget what's going on musically. So the piano sonata 570 start with that two-note slur. Like this, but so often I hear. And I'm talking about some very advanced pianists that just follow that two-note slur. But it's so unmusical. Only pianists would do things like that. I can't think of any other instrument players play like that. Clarinet, oboe, strings, of course. So you've got to really think, two-note slur, but what's happening as an entire phrase? Of course, you don't need to make such clear pause in between. You have to know that there's a two-note slur throughout, but you don't have to show it like in a manual. The 3-3-2, the beginning also. It's just so not musical, non-musical. So the famous Mozart Requiem, one of the last pieces he wrote, and in fact he didn't finish. And to me, it's the highest art of the highest art. It's the unbelievable beauty in that piece. So Lacrimosa, unfortunately he couldn't finish, but he finished the beginning of the piece. The accompaniment starts like this with the strings, violins. Then the voice comes in. So imagine if it's played like very pity it would be. So I'm getting the examples from other instruments. There's just simply so many. So that you can see, I can show you how you can get the good sound in your ear from other instruments. I cannot emphasize this enough again. I mean, another thing I cannot emphasize enough is the pianists do not listen anything but piano music. That's absolute pity. They listen the piece they learn, which they have to be avoiding above all, but they just listen the piece they learn. And when we get this Mozart piano sonata, which is very like orchestrated piece, is why then there are so many wonderful compositions that Mozart wrote. I do not understand why don't we take time to listen? But especially young people, they don't want to take time to do that. But it's so much more beneficial than practicing at the piano for 6 hours. So now I'm going to talk about the slur and staccato, and there's a staccato slur. So it has a both notation, dots and the bow. So how can we do that? So it's not quite staccato and not quite legato, but it has so much more resonating sound. So this is 3-3-0, the second movement. This beginning of this is a staccato slur and repeated 3 notes. And it's a pickup, meaning the starts from the measure begins. So the 3 notes lands on a downbeat with a harmony. This is also, the staccato slur in Mozart is one of the most beautiful expressions to me. Staccato is a breathe in between, but it's not quite so short. And you can imagine the great soprano singing the famous aria of Magic Flute, the Queen of the Night. So you can imagine this. It has to be repeated very fast. This is considered the most difficult aria for a soprano. But they have to resonate the sound, the voice in the body. So you cannot be tight and use muscular forces. Then voice would become like a maybe killing chicken or something really torturous sound, like you know. So that I'm not a great singer, so I better not try. But it's the same kind of sound that you should enjoy the resonating, vibrating the instrument with it. And the repeated note I was talking about was another sonata. It comes in a development. Better play a little bit before. It changes. This is staccato slur here. So this is another repeated note, but I don't play because it's repeated note. I play because, I play certain way because what's happening in music, it's such a sunny, gorgeous scene of the F major turns to such a dark, sad F minor with a pianissimo with staccato slur. But it's not because I see staccato slur. It's because of the music concept. It's just so much beauty in his music. Just let me check. I don't want to miss the important out. Okay, so accompaniment meaning not always, but most of the time in this music comes in the left hand. So this is very familiar piece for you all, the 4/5/4 C major. I play the way how I hear very often. It's even more common. So this left hand, this is a harmony support. So it's actually a full voice accompaniment. But people play like in a polyphonic music because it's written that way. But it's musically so, if I may use the word, musically incorrect. It has to be. So you play by holding all notes by your fingers, which is called Alberti bass. It's very common in Mozart's music. So just create the harmony rather than attacks. So this has to be a intense legato instead of giving attack. Even if you connect one note to another, if you give attack, it becomes quite rhythmical, which you don't want to have it. Like the example of Symphony 40, it's actually the second violin and viola play. It's hard to do in the piano, but they play like this, but you don't hear this. It's not the purpose. It's a harmony support with the rhythms. So in piano, same thing. The K333. This nothing but harmony support to the melody. It would be so different if you play. Okay, I will try to play literally the notation wise. Which is not so uncommon. I hear things like that the young people play in competitions. But when the question comes, is it beautiful? Is it moving? Is it inspiring? I don't think so. But everything is correct. You're not missing note, you're not missing a rhythm, you're not missing a beat, you're not missing anything. But so what? That's what music is. I would like to okay, I will stop the demonstration here now and I will continue with the talking. But I would like to ask you if there's any questions. Or is there anything unclear to you? No? Everything's good? Okay, I'm glad. So, as you see, the beginning of the legato and staccato are the same. You don't change the approach. What makes staccato shorter is, or in other words, what determines the length of the note is when you leave the key. So the common approach to the key when it comes to staccato of lifting the hand in the air and go down like this. It's not beautiful staccato. You approach the key same way as you play the legato, but you leave sooner. It depends on the tempo that you're taking or the musical ideas, concept, what's going on there. But if you go like this, again, it doesn't give you good time for a string to vibrate. It's never a good sound. It's just like a, I don't know, woodpecker pecking on wood, almost like a noise. And in fact, if you lift your hand in the air, then go down so quickly, it creates noise actually, because you hit the surface of the wood. You hear this? You hear this actually. So it's when you have to lift this afterwards. But anyways, so you can make a fast repeated staccato that way, or the slow staccato that way, or staccato on a long valued note this way. You need a little length in staccato, or staccato slur, or the slur on one note. You can still make it without relying on the pedal. So now I talked about physical aspect, but you learn and experiment the physical aspect of the sound production, but it's not the goal. I think it seems like there's a trap that people get so taken by the visual image, same as like the keyboard key surface I was talking about earlier. So because of the lifting arm or whatever motion you see when pianists performing, think that's what I have to be doing at the practice, but that's only a tool of creating a sound you want. You don't want to use the motion to initiate the process of playing. It's the other way around. It only works when the musical objective creates the need for the motion. So now I would like to conclude, unless there's any questions. When it comes to music making, there's no format for anything. Absolutely nothing. There's no such thing that one works for all. The slur can be very differently played from one form to another. So can staccato, like I was talking earlier at the piano. And to feel and listen is far more important than reading. If you just follow all the markings quite literally, it will not make a beautiful performance. So what's coming from, what all these issues coming from? I think, well, I need another 5 hours to talk about this, but the daily practice, it's very interesting that musicians, music, it's just a sound, but people start focusing on the wrong thing, which is only a small part of the process. So the mastering piece sure takes a village. Even a short piece, or I feel I never understand a piece and I never perform the way I think it should be. There's no satisfaction. Probably will keep going until the day I die, or maybe beyond. But it requires so much work, so much repetitive work every day and every day. We need tremendous discipline to maintain many hours of practicing every day. So in that process, and then you repeat same passages over and over and over and over. And that it's really easy to get in a trap, that aiming, the mechanical perfections. You repeat the same passage over and over, and pretty soon what you're thinking in your mind is only not to miss a note. But that never should be a purpose of practicing. It would probably make your, or maybe I should say, there's no guarantee. It makes your performance maybe mechanically accurate playing. But it will never be moving because there's no concept. There's no your voice, no your soul, no your thinking. It's just mechanically perfect, so to say. What kind of musicians you want to become? That should be the goal. That should be the center of your everyday practice. It's so common, and I'm not different. When I was younger, you just keep playing the same passage over and over. And if you do that 8 hours a day, your mind's so tired. You're not fresh, you're not inspired, you're not loving what you're doing. It's just a repetitive work. It's just routine. But somehow it gives you certain amount of relief that, oh, I practiced 8 hours a day, so I'm good to go. But that's so far from what you're aiming for the performance. You want to perform to connect people. You want to perform to inspire people. You want to perform to be inspired. And you want to translate the art after internalizing within yourself, and then translate with your own language. But that most important thing is missing in daily practice. How can you perform like that if you don't practice that way? It's just such a pressure in a society that students are judged and teachers are judged and the parents are judged by such a small part of musical activity, which is competition. And there are so many competitions nowadays, and there are winners everywhere. If you keep trying, you will win some competition, no question about it. But who is judging? Another human beings. How can people think that's your ultimate judgment of your musicality? Well, that's why we're so pressured not to miss a note, because that's the easiest measurement for good playing for everybody, for the competitors and judges. But it should never become a goal. If you want to keep playing music, that's not going to bring you too far. I know from my experience, I can 120% guarantee that. So I'm not saying those mechanical perfection is a bad thing. I'm not saying that, but it should never be a goal. So nurturing your love for music every day at the piano or not at the piano, listening to other composition of the composer and going to concert. I hope that will start happening soon. Then you gain the sound vocabulary, I call, just like gaining vocabulary by listening, reading beautiful poems, and make a connection with your emotions and activate it. You need active work for that. It's not going to just happen by itself. You have to actively trying to make a connection. So nurturing your love for music every day rather than torturing yourself. If you aim the mechanical perfections, there is only torture because you're not gonna be mechanically perfect all the time. No. So there's only a happy ending there. But if you really focus on the beautiful music and making your music more beautiful and more meaningful, the technique will develop accordingly. Because you want to make this passage sound like oboe sound with a perfect legato, with sound perfect resonance and a perfect voicing. You're always aiming for that, and then your finger will follow. Because after all, fingers, so they don't have 10 different brains. It's only one brain and a heart, one heart, giving a command to our fingers. So if you practice that way every day, of course it will follow. Fourth finger is weaker when I play scale, so I give a little more pressure, a little more speed to bring up the volume so that it equalized with other notes. That gives a little extra strength for the fourth finger. So eventually your fourth finger gets stronger without doing that strange device and with a strings on and, you know, the muscle training. So I hope you make everyday practice not just a process of mastering a piece, but a joyful journey to become a musician you want to become. So that's my conclusion of the day. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mina. It was amazing discussion, which also brings us back to the basics. Why, what music is about in the modern culture, concert culture. There is, especially with the development of video and phones, the visual is so overemphasized that with classical music, many people forget what the root, the whole reason for that is, which is audio world, not the visual world. And your conversation and demonstration today takes all that clutter away and helps us focus again on the origin of music, the reason for its existence, and love, why we first fell in love with it. It's that, the very sound of it. So marvelous thoughts and very rich discussion. Thank you, Mina.
Thank you so much for your kind words, and thanks so much again for kind invitation to have me here.
Any questions from anyone, please? Now is the time. If we have any questions, let us know. Raise hands. If not, we will conclude. We're coming to the close of our session. We're on a little bit over, and thank you again, Mina, very much. look forward to having you at the festival in the summer. And over to you, Veronica.
Hello, sorry for my change of space. Oh, sorry to interrupt you. Go on.
And thanks
Sorry for my change of space. Would you like to speak, Mina? Sorry, I keep on interrupting.
No. I just wanted to thank all to listen my talk. And, it was such a great time I had. Thank you.
No, yes, we just wanted to say how honored we are on behalf of all Orfeo Music Festival to have Professor Mina Perry join us for our program today and for sharing the knowledge and the art. And we hope you will join us for our next sessions, which will be Sunday, March 6th. We'll have 2 sessions. There'll be a great repertoire choices faculty panel from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern with Professor Stephen Key, Jessica Scherer, and Maria Razmuskovaya. And after that, from 4 to 5 p.m., there will be a piano masterclass with Professor Richard Chanko. And on March 9th, which is a Wednesday, from 4 to 5 p.m., there will be a benefits of playing chamber music discussion with the Woodwind Quartet Masterclass right after. And before we conclude, I would just like to introduce those of you who might have missed the new dates for this summer's edition of the Orfeo Music Festival, an international classical music event and one-of-a-kind opportunity for ambitious classical music student performers to travel to Italy in July to train with world-class faculty performers, participate in their master classes, perform internationally and gain recognition in concerts, go on trips and musical tours of historical locations, and make new musical friendships and international network of professional connections. This year, Orfeo will not only feature the original festival program in Vipiteno, Italy from July 4th to July 16th, but it will also offer a special additional program, the musical tour of Russia from July 16th to July 26th. Students can apply to either participate in the Italian or Russian programs or both. The event is suitable not only for student and educator performers, but also others with strong interest or professional involvement in the arts and music. You can register for the event through March 15th or by March 1st. Oh, well, I guess you can register by March 15th. The early bird registration just passed, so just get on to the registration. And we would like to thank our sponsors as well that include the Orfeo Music Festival Foundation, Mayor Vipiteno Peter Volger, Department of Culture, City Council, and Department of Tourism of Vipiteno, Italy. If anyone here has any questions, we encourage you to reach out to us directly or by visiting our website at www.orfeomusicfestival.com. We thank you all for attending today, and we look forward to speaking to you again soon or seeing you at the festival.